All right, well, it's 5 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and kick this thing off. So welcome to the 2019 roadway rehab construction meeting. So my name is Mike Hana. I took over here as the project manager for this one for the city of Woodbury. And with me, we've got some representatives from our consultant, Bolton and Mank. So we got Jeff Toutant over there in the orange. We got Seth in the black there. He'll be on site, so you'll see him around in the construction site. And then we got Tony, and he's the City of Woodbury engineer. And then out there, that was Doug Peterson, who's also with the City of Woodbury, one of our project coordinators, and he was helping you guys do the sign up and any of the in-touch notifications, and there was something for the smart water control. That's for anybody who has a irrigation system and they like to upgrade. It's online, it's app-based, so offered by the City of Woodbury at a discounted price. They're $200 retail, and we offer them for $35. So there's some information if you'd like to learn more about that, but that's not really what this meeting is about. So we'll jump into the construction part of this meeting. So we're going to go over the communication. So with a project like this, notifying everybody of kind of what's going on is going to be the most important part. So we have various ways to reach you guys, and we've been sharing that with you throughout this process, and we'll go over it one more time. We'll go over the phasing and schedule, as I'm sure you guys have all been curious to see when we'll be on your street. We'll go over the construction process, kind of what to expect in front of your house, and then we'll go over some questions. We kind of know what you guys are wondering, so we'll answer some of the questions we get most often, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for any other questions. So those are on your chairs. Feel free to fill those out now or wait till the end, and we'll have members pick them up, and then we'll answer everything at the end. So please hold your questions and write down anything that you can think of while the presentation's going on. So hopefully we can cover most things during the presentation. But first off, for communication, so the in-touch email service is probably the most important thing that we want to encourage people to sign up for. So this will provide you with weekly updates automatically. So if you sign up for this, there's a pamphlet out there that kind of describes how to sign up. Otherwise, this is kind of what the screen is going to look like. It's through the City of Woodbury, and we automatically send emails. So this is kind of the process of how you would go about signing up for that. So if you go to the Woodbury website, the homepage, there's this button that's at the top, and it says sign up for InTouch. And once you click that button, you'll scroll down to the bottom, and there's a check mark that says Road Rehab 2019. So you check that box, you enter your email address, and you'll automatically get notifications weekly, and that's going to give you the most up-to-date information. All the information that we're giving you now is pretty preliminary, and it's hard to know exactly what we'll be doing later in the summer. So that's going to be the way to get the most accurate and most current information as far as phasing, when they're going to be in front of your street or when they'll be finishing up your street. In addition to the InTouch, it's probably not a bad idea to bookmark this one, the Road Rehab website, which will be updated as well, and that'll include all the InTouch notifications, all the door hangers, and it will even include this presentation, so don't worry about taking too many notes. This will all be posted to the website within the next few days. We have the local broadcasting televising this, so they'll upload this here in a few days, so that will be available for everybody to view. And then we have door hangers, which will give everybody as we get closer to your phase. So about 2 weeks out, you'll get a door hanger, and that's going to give you the real specific information as far as what kind of impacts you're going to get, where to park, curb work that's going to be done, kind of what to expect as far as when they're going to start removing pavement in front of your house and when they're going to be wrapping up the paving. So the door hangers will be coming as we get closer to your phase. And then for the project hotline, so this is the number that you can call, and this goes to our consultants who are out in the field full-time, and they're going to have the most up-to-date information if you have any urgent requests. They can help you set up, if you've got say a disabled relative that's going to be coming in the middle of summer and you're concerned about how they're going to access. So all of that kind of stuff, the project hotline is the one to go through for any kind of request like that. So this is the phone number. We sent out some postcards that had this phone number as well. Otherwise, you can copy it down, put it in your phone right now. This is going to be the number to call if you have any specific, construction-specific questions or comments or anything. And those calls are answered by Bolton and Mank, and they'll be directed to the right person. So that's an important phone number to know. So we'll go over the phasing here. So this is preliminary phasing here. So the contractor has come up with this, and we kind of finalized this within the last week or so. But phase 1 areas, that's going to start here in May. It'll start the week after the garage sale, so they'll be out doing some kind of minor work before that, but for the most part, construction's going to start the Monday after the garage sale, so you won't have any problem navigating the roads. But phase 1, this is that red area, and that's going to be from May to June. These phases are going to be 6 to 8 weeks approximately, so it's hard to know exactly when phase 2 will start. They'll wait to start on phase 2 until after phase 1 is complete, so that's why we don't really have any dates that are set in stone after about phase 1 start date. So phase 1, as you can see, is the Northview Lane Road, Torrey, and Juniper Lane. Those are all kind of the major roads that are going to be included with phase 1, and then you can kind of see. And this is also available on our website, so if you wanted to see kind of a bigger blow-up of where we'll be, and we'll update you as, In Touch will update you as the schedule changes, which it very well, it essentially will. It's too hard to predict exact timelines as far as weather delays and other construction issues that come up. But so like I had said, each phase is about 6 to 8 weeks, and this is kind of the general timeline that they'll follow. So the first week will be mobilization and traffic control, so they'll be putting up signs that are kind of notifying what kind of construction impacts to expect. And then there'll be 2 to 3 weeks of removing and replacing damaged curb. So we'll go over in a little bit the areas that are going to be experiencing the full curb replacement. So those are the areas where there'll be the most impacts to your properties and driveways and things, but we'll go over that a little bit later. So after they remove and they replace the curb, then they'll start with the roadways. So the first thing they'll do, they'll remove the pavement and then they'll grade it. So they'll place the bottom layer of pavement, and then they'll adjust some manholes and things, and they'll patch the driveways, do some topsoil restoration, and then finally they'll put the top layer of pavement on. They do the top layer last, and then as soon as they're done with that, then they won't be hauling any large vehicles on there because it's kind of sensitive until the first few cold days. So they tend to stay off the top pavement as long as they can. So this is kind of the general timeline that we can expect. So I will say that we will always maintain access to your houses. You may or may not be able to get into your driveway at all times, but you will be able to at least park on the street and be able to walk on the street. The road will be gravel at some points, but it'll be drivable. It'll be a little bumpy. It'll be a little dusty. Like I said, inconvenient is probably the best way to put it, but you'll be able to navigate the roads throughout the entire construction process. So, and this is the areas where we're going to have full curb replacement. So as you can see, there's some areas where it's pretty extensive. We've got a lot of areas on Marsh Creek Road, Marsh Creek Alcove, Northview Lane. There's lots of other ones. Ashford Road, Featherstone are some of the big ones, Beacon. So these are the areas where we're pretty much going to be impacting your driveways and your yards. And by yards, I guess what I mean is the first 3 to 5 feet of your yard, they'll have to do some work in there. So if you have irrigation, dog fences, other kinds of landscaping, the resident is responsible for removing those to give the contractor room so that they can go ahead and put the curb in. And I guess if your street is not highlighted, that doesn't guarantee you're not going to have any curb work. These other areas are going to have spot curb repair, and those will be marked a few weeks prior to construction by the consultant. And if you have the white paint, which we'll go over in a little bit, Jeff will kind of show you what that looks like. If you have white paint on your curb, then that curb is going to be coming out as well. So if you have any irrigation, you'll be responsible for that too, irrigation, dog fences, anything like that. And if you have questions about whether or not something is going to be impacted, that's something else another reason to call the hotline. So we'll go ahead and show a video. We've showed this at a few other neighborhood meetings, so if you've been to some neighborhood meetings, you've seen this before, but we'll show it again here just so you have an idea of what to expect when the contractor starts the construction on your street.
Every year, the city improves sections of neighborhood streets and a variety of areas of Woodbury. Most of the roads are in residential areas, which are why city staff conducts a series of neighborhood meetings, open houses, and public hearings related to the roadway rehabilitation project. Residents attending these meetings have the opportunity to learn about the construction process, special assessments and funding, how it will impact them, and ask questions about the project. Special assessments are a charge imposed for improvements that benefit nearby properties. The amount of the charge bears a direct relationship to the benefit the property receives and is based on the city's assessment policy. Assessments are used as a partial project funding source in addition to general tax revenues and other sources. Once the project is formally approved by City Council, construction begins. The first step in the process is removing portions of the old pavement. A milling machine proceeds slowly down the street as it removes the top surface of the pavement, leaving a rough but drivable surface. In most cases, the roads remain open to traffic through the milling process. Depending on the location of the project, utility improvements might be done in conjunction with the roadway work. These improvements include sewers, water mains, natural gas lines, and communication cables. Utility work requires extensive digging and usually results in temporary lane or roadway closures. Motorists should be aware of detours in these areas. All projects involve curb and gutter work. Approximately 1 week before curb construction, sections are evaluated and marked for removal. If your curb needs replaced, you will be notified and given information on how it will impact your residents. During construction, any irrigation systems, dog fences, or other private features within the right-of-way will have to be moved by the property owner. Asphalt driveways damaged during curb replacement will be patched. Damaged concrete driveways will be removed and replaced. Curb work will also impact your lawn. The contractor will replace disturbed areas with seed and hydro mulch. The contractor will care for the area for 30 days. Residents are encouraged to water and care for the areas to achieve the best results. Once curb work is completed, it cannot be driven over for 5 to 7 days. Prior to final paving, the street surface will be thoroughly swept. After this step, the final pavement process will begin. Before the new asphalt is laid, tack oil is applied to the road. Residents should avoid driving on the tack oil because it can stick to driveways and vehicles. With the tack oil in place, crews will then begin the paving process. After the new asphalt is rolled and has cooled, it is immediately ready to use. If you have any questions regarding the project process, assessments, or the scope of the project proposed for your neighborhood, please contact the City of Woodbury Engineering Department at 651-714-3593.
All right, so yeah, that video gave you kind of a general idea of what to expect. We've talked a little bit about how this phasing and construction schedules, the one thing that we can guarantee is that the schedule is going to change. We can't control the weather. If we get a 4-day stretch where it rains every day, then you can basically assume everything's going to be pushed back a week. And we just want to emphasize that there's going to be some inconveniences. We're going to work as hard as we can to make this as smooth as we can for you guys, but there's just some things that we can't avoid. In the construction area, it's going to be a gravel road for a little bit there, which means it's going to be dusty. So somebody had asked me about replacing windows. I would recommend don't replace any windows if we're doing your road during that time. So it'll be noisy. There's a lot of construction vehicles that are going to be out and about. Right now the contractor, their working hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we're trying to limit the the noise as much as we can, but at the same time they have to get the work done. The construction zone, we want to make sure that you guys are patient with the contractor. They're working as fast as they can, but we want to encourage people to avoid getting too close to any equipment. The school buses are going to have access, but we would encourage the students to stay back far off the curb because the construction vehicles will be starting at 7 a.m. So there's going to be some conflicts there, and we just want to make sure that people are aware that as long as the kids are staying on the curb, they'll be just fine. So I guess as they should be anyway. But and resident access, we will provide access to your houses. But like I had said, there may be a couple weeks where you won't have driveway access, and if you're in that full curb replacement areas, then there will definitely be a couple weeks where you won't have driveway access. And if you have any significant comments or concerns, the construction hotline is the place. So with that, I'll go over to Jeff Toutant, who will kind of go over the specific construction details and what to expect as far as what work the contractors actually be doing on the roads. So this is Jeff Toutant with Bolton and Mink.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Jeff Toutant. As Mike had mentioned, I'm going to go through some of the impacts due to construction and look at some slides here with you. This first picture, what you see is some spot utility work. This type of work is kind of scattered throughout the project, so not everybody is going to be impacted by this. The main thing to keep in mind is the contractor is going to be having his larger equipment out in the middle of the street. He's going to be digging holes out in the middle of the road in some cases, and in some cases he's going to be working right up along the side of the yard. The picture on the left side shows a storm inlet. With this project, we're going to be doing some work with pretty much every one of them within the project area. So if you have one of them in your yard, them are usually the areas of the largest impact because we usually end up having to dig at a minimum, I'll say, of about 4 feet behind them. In some cases, it ends up being a little bit farther if we're doing a full structure replacement. The pictures here kind of show what to expect with paint marks on the curb in the spot curb areas. Mike had mentioned earlier with the visual showing the full curb versus spot curb. The majority of the full curb removal and replacement area, you're going to see a disturbance of about 3 to 5 feet behind the curb because of the machine that they need to use to place that curb has to get back behind this curb. It has a track or equipment that runs back behind the actual curb. If you have the spot curb in front of your home, the disturbance is going to be about 3 feet, maybe as much as 5 feet, and it'll extend about a foot beyond either side of the panel being replaced. So the arrows point into the panels that are getting replaced. Here you can kind of see down the street the equipment that they're using to remove the spot curb panels, and you also see a crew coming behind them doing the concrete placement. In the spot curb areas, typically the panels are removed and either replaced the same day or the following day. So it's a pretty quick process as they work their way right down the road. A couple things you'll see in the upper left, that's basically a big bank of mailboxes. If you live in the full curb replacement areas, we're going to remove all the mailboxes. They'll be set up in the yards prior to the curb removal, and a bank of mailboxes will be set up. These mailboxes will be for you to use throughout construction. Some people don't like to have their mail in this bank system. You are welcome to contact the post office and pick up your mail there during construction, but we do provide you the opportunity to be able to pick up your mail at that temporary mailbox. When there is switches going from the temporary mailbox to your existing mailbox, please try to check both mailboxes just to make sure that you do get all your mail and nothing's left in one or the other. Also, one thing I want to bring up with the mailboxes, if you're looking at replacing your mailbox, maybe your post is getting a little rotted out and you want to replace it, this would be a good time to do that. You just have to basically put whatever the new box you want to use, put it in its place when it's laying in the yard, and then the contractor will install that new box versus putting the old one back in. Other type of mail thing that you see in the lower picture is a bank style mailbox. I know there's some in the Juniper area. Them mailboxes, the service will continue to them throughout construction. The boxes themselves will be picked up and moved while the concrete removal and that work is going on, and then they'll be put back into place after construction. Here's a couple examples of the pavement removal machines. As you can see, these are rather large machines. They do have blind spots on them, so keep that in mind when we're doing the pavement removal. We want to make sure that if you have kids that are out playing in the neighborhood, make sure someone's there watching them and make sure that they understand that they shouldn't be out running around the equipment. These contractors and truck drivers are all aware of the kids running around through the neighborhoods. This contractor has done quite a few of these types of projects over the years, so they do pay attention and look out for people. But it's still important to kind of keep track of your kids, especially when we're working in your phase. Here's an example of the concrete curb, the machine placement, and you can kind of see how the disturbance is a little bit more than what you'd see in the spot curb replacement areas. The picture here is the full curb replacement in front of a driveway. You're going to see a similar style curb if you live in the full curb replacement areas going in is what this picture shows. The new style curb that's going in is more of a vertical face. Its height is basically the same height, so it still carries the same amount of water. But at the driveway, if you notice, you'll see a little bit of a cut down. They cut the back of it down, so it'll be a little bit smoother transition than what you experience now. So if you don't like that bump in front, if we're doing the full curb, you'll notice a little bit of a change. There'll still be a bump, but it'll be a little bit smoother transition. When the curb is placed, there's a period of about, I'd say, 5 days before you can drive over that new concrete. It's the same with the driveway placement. Anywhere where we're doing full curb replacement, we're going to be putting a little concrete driveway apron. It's about 5 feet deep that'll go behind the new concrete curb. If you're in the spot curb areas, what you're going to see is if your driveway is impacted, if we got a panel in front of it, we'll do a patch behind it. If you have an asphalt driveway, it'll be an asphalt patch. It'll be about 2 feet roughly in width. If it's a concrete driveway, lots of times we can remove them panels out in the spot curb condition without impacting your driveway. Once all the concrete work is done, you'll see them come out with some large vibratory equipment. This equipment is going to be used to compact that gravel base material. You also will see similar equipment when they're placing the pavement. You will notice that there will be some vibration in your house that you will be able to feel. If you have any valuables, I'd recommend if it's something that's a small trinket or something, you might want to take that off the shelves while this work is occurring. Typically, we don't have problems with stuff falling off walls or shelves, but if you have something that's really valuable, you might want to do that just to be safe. One question that does come up lots of times, well, with this vibration, does it wreck my house or cause any damage to my foundation? The vibration that these have, it will not, or it should not affect your house as far as any foundation damage. But like I said, you will feel the vibration in your homes. After the first layer of pavement gets placed, the contractor will be placing topsoil in all the disturbed areas. The contractor will place topsoil and then seed, usually a few days right behind. This would be, once this topsoil goes down, this would be the opportunity to reinstall any irrigation systems if you were going to do it yourself. This would be the opportune time because you got nice light topsoil to work with. Otherwise, you could put it in also before the topsoil gets placed, and then the contractor will work around your irrigation heads once they're in place. The picture in the bottom right is a very good seed growth. What you see down there looks nice, lush green. This is ideal. This is awesome. I don't know how else to explain it. What you saw in the video, you notice there's a few blotchy spots that didn't come in. That's more typical of what you're going to see after the seeding is first done. That seed will eventually fill in over time, but it's not going to look like a full aged mature lawn like the rest of your yard. So do expect that there will be some spots. After the seeding is done, we do an inspection, and if there's I'll say a large amount of non-growth, then the contractor will come back and reseed areas. But that inspection doesn't occur for, it'll be a little bit over a month after the seed is placed because the contractor has a window to try to get that initial growth in the area. If there's spots that get done later in the year, some of the later phases, lots of times that seed will be placed late enough in the year that we will hold off doing an inspection until the following year. So if you're in one of the later phases, if you don't see growth right away to the next following spring, do keep in mind that the contractor will likely be coming out and doing some of that corrective work the following spring. A couple examples of the paving operations. Mike had kind of hit on some of the things to watch out for with the paving operations as far as driving on the brand new asphalt. Typically, when pavement is placed, you're going to be able to drive over this asphalt within about 30 minutes from when it comes out of the paver. The large rolling equipment that follows it will compact it to a point that you'll be able to drive over it and not scuff it up, unless you start, if your car is parked in place and you start turning your wheels very sharply, you will dig into the hot pavement the first day it's placed. But as long as you're not cranking your steering wheel in place, you'll be just fine, and it won't leave any scuffs. The scuffs that do get left that you notice out there, typically they're not detrimental to the pavement because they're usually very thin, but they will stick out because you got this nice, perfectly smooth surface. Any scuffs on it will stick out, but like I said, a minor scuff just in the surface, you won't notice it after a few years. It'll kind of fade away. Here's an example of what happens when you crank your wheels when you drive over the brand new pavement. This particular example happened to be garbage day. Your garbage will continue as normal throughout this project. The contractor is made aware of when garbage day is. We schedule paving around garbage day because we don't want this to happen. In the bottom picture, the video talked a little bit about tack. It's basically a black glue, kind of an oily substance that gets placed between the two layers of pavement. They'll spread this out over the pavement directly in front of the paving operations. And this material you want to avoid driving over if possible, because if you drive over it, it will stick to your tires, and you will track it over, if you drive over it and up into a driveway, it'll track it up into your driveway. Just a couple examples here of some of the curb work and what to expect when you got the gravel driving surface. The curb does stick up. There is a lip at the front edge of the curb. You can kind of see in the corner of the picture. The contractor will ramp up driveways when it's okay to drive in and out and over that curb, so you're able to get in and out of your driveway. I'll turn it back over to Mike here.
So the schedule is the contractor will start May 6th, which is the week of the garage sale, and they'll be just doing some minor work. They'll be doing things like saw cutting, nothing that's going to have any impacts on navigating the roads. And they're projected to be done by the end of October. And of course, this is best case scenario, so there's certainly a chance that they end up going into November. Depends kind of on how the weather goes, how the fall is. Last fall we had a very wet fall and things got pushed back a little bit, so if we run into something like that, then we'll have some more delays. So this is as best we can give you for now. If you want the most up-to-date information, as we've talked about before, the in-touch notification is the best way to stay informed. The streets will remain open. We'll allow access for mail trucks and garbage trucks and school buses, any emergency vehicles. All of that will be available throughout the entire construction project. You'll be able to drive in and out of the streets. It's just the driveway access that's going to be restricted at some times. The contractor's working hours, so they'll work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday generally. There's some times where they may need to start a little early or work a little past 7 o'clock, depending on kind of what they're doing that day. If there's a close wrap-up point and they need to work an extra hour and a half, the city ordinance does allow them to do that. We certainly don't want to make a habit of it, but just be aware that if they work past 7, they are allowed to do that. Driveway access, like we've talked about, there would be some times if you're in the full curb repair areas that you'll be without driveway access for probably a couple of weeks to let the concrete cure. And there will be street parking that will be available at that time, so you'll still have access to your house. Garbage and mail service. Again, those will be maintained throughout construction. There'll be some temporary mailboxes, but yeah, that should be pretty much as normal. Just On garbage day, make sure you pull the garbages a little off the curb if you're in that curb rehabilitation area. And then probably the big one is the irrigation systems, underground fences, dog fences, landscaping. So this is the one that we emphasize. The city right-of-way extends into your yards a little bit, and so that's where we'll be doing this curb work. So when we do the curb work and we impact the 3 to 5 feet off the back of your driveway, or off the back of the curb, the resident is responsible for removing the dog fence and the sprinkler. Anything that is damaged, we won't reimburse you for, and we won't be able to repair anything. So just be aware of that. You're responsible for removing any of that prior to the curb. And we'll have door hanger notices a few weeks before that will give you all the same information. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to call the hotline. Like I said, if there's something that you're not sure whether or not it's going to be in the way, the hotline is the way to go, and that's at the bottom here. The contractor will also be responsible for turf restoration whenever they impact your yard. So they'll come in, they'll seed it, they'll hydro mulch it, and they'll maintain it. We do ask that you help. Their requirements generally aren't as good as the homeowners. So if you want your yards to look as good as I know a lot of the properties in this area look, you'll need to do some help with watering and pulling weeds and things like that. But the contractor is going to be responsible for establishing some turf. So if things aren't looking good, feel free to contact the hotline and let them know. But like I said, like Jeff had said, give them a month or so. That's as long as they have to establish it. And a lot of questions come about offering a driveway repair. The contractor will not be doing that. Their equipment is large enough where it's just not very efficient for them to try to do individual driveways. So they usually stick to just doing streets. It's bigger, better bang for their buck, I guess I'll say. Pavement expectations, so you'll get the fresh mat this year, and next year we'll probably have some cracking, and that's expected in a climate like this where we have such extreme weather or temperature changes. So we'll have some cracks by next spring, and we'll do some crack sealing, and we'll do a pavement rejuvenation oil on it. So that'll be in 2020, so to hopefully prolong the life of the pavement and make it last 15 to 20 years minimum, hopefully 25 years. And then we wanted to give you a heads up on some other projects that will be going on in the city this year. So some of you might be aware, if you've been to the other neighborhood meetings, Meadowwood and Upper Afton Road will be under construction. So Upper Afton Road will have closures throughout the summer. That one will be phased, and it's going to be closed in 4 different segments, but essentially Upper Afton Road between Weir and Century will be closed for through traffic throughout the summer. And the county also has some projects, so Bailey and Bailey Frontage Road, that's going to be the stretch of Bailey between Pioneer and Woodbury Drive. There will be access, for the most part, there will be 3 or 4 weekend closures where you won't be able to access Bailey Road between Pioneer and Woodbury Drive. And there's a link here at the bottom where it directs you to information to you get updates as far as when those will be. The Radio Drive pedestrian bridge, that's along Radio Drive between Oakdale and Woodbury, that crosses I-94, and that's a county project which, again, if you follow this link at the bottom, that'll give you more information about that. And then the Radio Drive trail extension, which there will be some lane closures in there, but there shouldn't be major impacts along Radio Drive during that project. And then finally, there's the I-94, 494, 694 interchange that I'm guessing most of you are familiar with. And again, this link at the bottom here will direct you to the MnDOT's site, which will give you the best information.